Thank you for joining us at this hour. I'm Daniel Che with the news updates. Every second counts for the candidates running in an upcoming by-elections in Korea on July 30th, and the competition is heating up. Ruling Saenuri Party Chairman Kim Boo-sung and party officials are busy attending campaign events to shore up support for conservative candidates, and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy is aiming to win seats once held by Saenuri Party lawmakers. They are centering their efforts on the government's mishandling of the Seoul ferry tragedy in April, with co-chairs Kim Han-gil and An Cheol-soo even going as far as to vowing to go on a hunger strike to urge the Park Geun-hye administration to deal with the matter as quickly and efficiently as possible. The main opposition party is considered to be at a disadvantage in the coming by-elections, with none of its candidates having a clear lead, except in the party's traditional stronghold in the Jeollado provinces. Korea's new finance minister is expected to provide a stronger direction for the Korean economy. He made some new proposals over the weekend that are raising hopes for an economic revival. Here is our Kim Ji-yeon with the story.
The Korean economy is starting to look more lively after promises made by its new finance minister, Choi Kyung-han. His emphasis on deregulation has once again raised hopes of jump-starting the economy. To boost the property market, Choi is also the deputy prime minister for the economy, has been promising to ease regulations for home buyers after the government cut taxes for people who own multiple homes. The government has already eased the debt-to-income ratio and loan-to-value ratio, both of which limit the amount that prospective buyers can borrow from banks based on various economic indicators, including income. To boost investment, the new finance minister proposed tax breaks for small and mid-sized companies, or SMEs, using an accounting method called accelerated depreciation. It involves depreciating an asset at a faster rate early on in that asset's life. This is done to help reduce a company's taxable income in the early stages of an asset's life, when the asset is still useful, by deferring the tax to later years. Choi also said he would work to remodel industrial complexes to encourage more young employees to work for the SMEs therein. He said he would work with related ministries to restore worn-out facilities and improve life for residents there. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
North Korea's participation in the upcoming Asian Games should help improve inter-Korean relations. At least that's what North Korean leader Kim Jong-un believes. The North's state-run Korean Central News Agency said Sunday the young leader made the remarks while watching a match with the men's national football team, a team which will participate in the Games. Kim added that sports should not be used for political purposes, a remark presumably aimed at the break-off of inter-Korean talks on dispatching North Korean teams to the Incheon Asian Games. Kim Young-gun, a senior secretary who deals with inter-Korean affairs, was also spotted at the match alongside Kim Jong-un, the first time in 100 days that he's been seen in public. South Korea's new defense minister Han Min-gu has warned North Korea Seoul will retaliate against any future provocations without reservations. In a televised interview on Sunday, Han said the South Korean military will launch an immediate counterattack to any North Korean provocations, adding that Seoul will not only target the source of the provocation but also commanders and supporting forces. The South Korean defense minister continued by saying that Pyongyang's recent missile launches were aimed at creating internal strife in South Korea to change Seoul's North Korea policy. Meanwhile, Han and his U.S. counterpart, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, held their first phone conversation on Saturday. The two discussed bilateral alliance. Han and Hagel will dig deeper into the topic in October during an annual round of defense ministerial talks in Washington. Korea and China have reached consensus on establishing a military hotline following last year's discussions between the defense chiefs of the two nations. A Korean government source who declined to be named told Seoul-based Yonhap News that the goal is to set up the hotline within this year. A final decision on the specific timeline is likely to be announced after their fourth strategic defense dialogue. The dialogue to be held in China this Tuesday will be led by Korean Vice Defense Minister Baek Seung-ju and China's Deputy Chief of General Staff of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, Wang Guanzong. If established, China will become the second country after the U.S. with which Korea has a hotline between defense chiefs. And now we move on to the latest news about the Malaysia Airlines crash. Bodies recovered from the crash site in eastern Ukraine were loaded onto refrigerated train cars and sent to an eastern city held by rebels, according to the latest news reports. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian intelligence chief says Russian crews operated the missile that shot down the airliner. Our Park Ji-won has more.
The Associated Press says Sunday that all of the bodies found at the crash site in eastern Ukraine were taken away by pro-Russian separatists after being loaded onto refrigerated train cars bound for an eastern rebel-held city. Reuters also reported, citing interviews with rail workers at the scene Sunday, the bodies from the crash site were put into refrigerated rail cars overnight, adding that no more bodies can be seen at the site now. Only emergency workers were seen searching for possible body parts at the site. It was not yet clear as of Sunday whether the rebels and the Ukrainian government were working together to recover the bodies or not, since the arrival of international monitors and investigators at the site on Friday evening. Hundreds of armed pro-Russia militants who control the area have limited full access to the site. Adding to the tension in the region, Ukraine now says the team that operated the missile system that shot down the plane was Russian, and that the missile launcher also came from Russia.
Rebels cannot operate the very sophisticated and high-technique missile launch Book M1. To operate Book M1, you need to have education, military education, and to be well trained. We know for sure that the team was Russian. There were Russian citizens operating Book M1.
Meanwhile, Malaysia Airlines has released a full list of the 298 passengers from 11 countries who were aboard the plane, including nearly 200 from the Netherlands, 43 Malaysians, and 27 Australians. At least 6 of the passengers were heading to Melbourne to attend the 20th International AIDS Conference, set to begin this Sunday, including world-renowned scholars and a media officer for the WHO. Korean President Park Geun-hye has sent her condolences to Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak and Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, expressing her sadness over the painful loss and offering her condolences to the relatives of those lost in the crash. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Shifting gears to a different story, a group of U.S. senators has sent a letter to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe urging Tokyo to address history-related matters. 4 members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, including its chairman Robert Menendez, said in the letter that during Abe's latest visit to Australia, he vowed never to allow the horrors that transcribed during the past century to recur. The senators also reiterated their support for Abe's pursuit of the right to collective self-defense, which would allow Japan to aid an ally under attack. Coverage of the story by Japan's Kyodo News Agency, however, appeared to contain an important omission. It mentions the senators' support for Abe's military upgrade, but omits the part about Japan's need to address history. Heavy shelling of Palestinian forces by Israel in Gaza continued over the weekend, with the death toll rising. The two sides had agreed to a 2-hour humanitarian truce on Sunday afternoon in response to a request by the Red Cross to allow for the evacuation of the injured. However, fighting resumed an hour after the truce began. The Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, had sent troops into Gaza on Thursday after air and naval barrages failed to stop the rocket fire originating from there. On Saturday, the IDF expanded its ground offensive after 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in a gunfight with Palestinian militants who had used tunnels to cross into Israel to launch an attack. The number of Palestinians who have died in the conflict now stands at more than 350, and most of them are civilians. Moving to other stories now, on a lighter note, local researchers have designed a device that can detect super high energy cosmic rays. Now, this invention could help raise Korea's global status in the space industry. That's what Ao Paul Yi says.
This 1 square meter particle detector, made up of 2,500 semiconductor wafers piled up in 4 layers, is what's called a cosmic ray detector. Local university researchers came up with the idea for the design and have since developed it using domestic technology. It's expected to measure the charged constitution of cosmic rays with unprecedented accuracy.
Cosmic rays that arrive on Earth can be made up of any kind of atomic nucleus, be it of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon. Our detector will sort the elements with 99% accuracy.
The cosmic rays that contain super high energy cannot be produced on Earth and were first discovered in 1912. They are presumed to come from supernova explosions within the Milky Way galaxy, but they remain a mystery by and large.
How these particles achieve these so high energies? In other words, how do cosmic accelerators work? Is the main question, one of the big mysteries in astrophysics, and that's what we are trying to understand.
The cosmic ray detector has now been transferred to NASA for a final checkup before it is sent to the International Space Station for 3 years to analyze elements of the rays. It will represent the first locally developed instrument to be installed on the ISS, and Korea hopes that raises its global status in the space industry. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Looks like the hot and humid weather will continue throughout in most parts of the country for Monday and early parts of the week. But other than that, we'll try to take a look at the weather conditions in other parts of the world from now on. Well, that's all from us. Thank you for watching and have a great start to your week.